Every morning, before the sun was even fully awake, a woman named Mama Tund was already on her feet. She did not wake up to go to an office. She did not wear a fine suit. She tied her wrapper tight around her waist, carried her big iron frying pot, and walked to her spot, right by the junction, just beside the big mango tree, and she fried akara. For those who do not know, akara is a fried bean cake. It is golden. It is hot. It smells like heaven in the morning. And Mama Tund made the best akara in the whole street. Maybe in the whole town. People came from far. Mothers bought for their children before school. Office workers grabbed some on their way. Even the pastor from the church down the road. He never missed a morning. Mama Tund was proud of her work. She used her money to pay school fees. She used it to buy food. She used it to fix the leaking roof. She worked hard, and she was not ashamed. But there was one person who was ashamed. Her husband. His name was Emeka. And Emeka had a big problem. He cared too much about what people thought of him. He wore the latest clothes. He drove a neat car, or at least, a car that looked neat from the outside. He always had a phone in his hand, always talking loud, always laughing in a way that said, "Look at me." When people asked him, "Emeka, what does your wife do?" he would wave his hand and say, "Ah, she stays at home. You know, my wife doesn't need to work. I take care of everything." That was a lie. The truth? Emeka's salary was small. Very small. He worked as a low-level clerk in a government office. Some months, his salary came late. Some months, it barely came at all. It was Mama Tund's akara money that kept the house running. But Emeka could not say that. It would ruin his image. One day, Emeka was walking with his friend Biodun, a man who worked in a bank and always carried himself like he was better than everyone. They were walking past the junction when Biodun said, "Brothers, let's buy akara. That woman there, I heard her akara is sweet." Emeka froze. Because that woman was his wife. Mama Tund looked up, saw her husband, and her face broke into a big smile. "Emeka. Come, come. I'll give you extra." Emeka did not stop. He grabbed Biodun's arm and said, "No, no, no, I don't eat roadside food. Let's keep going." Mama Tund's smile faded. She watched her husband walk away, pretending he did not know her. And she said nothing. She turned back to her frying pan and continued her work. But inside, something hurt. From that day, Emeka became more careful. He made sure he never walked past her spot with anyone who knew him. He told his friends he lived in a different part of town. He never invited anyone to his house. And on weekends? Emeka became a completely different person. His friend group, Biodun, Chuka, and a man called Big K, liked to go to a fancy bar called Club Velvet. They would sit in the corner, order expensive drinks, and behave like big men. And Emeka? He would spend. He would order rounds of drinks he could not afford. He would tip the waitresses. He would laugh the loudest. There was a woman at Club Velvet, everyone called her Sandra. Sandra wore nice things and laughed at Emeka's jokes, and Emeka spent money on her every weekend. Meanwhile, at home, Mama Tund was saving every coin from her akara pot to make sure the electricity bill was paid. Now, their neighbor, Mama Bello, was a woman who saw everything. She sat by her window every morning and watched the street like it was her personal television. She saw Mama Tund leave every morning with her pot. She saw Emeka leave later in his ironed shirt. She saw the way Emeka never walked with his wife. Never bought from her. Never even waved. One afternoon, Mama Bello called Mama Tund over the fence and said, "My daughter, is everything okay between you and your husband?" Mama Tund smiled her quiet smile and said, "We are fine, Ma." But Mama Bello shook her head slowly. She had seen this kind of fine before. It was not the good kind of fine. Mama Tund had a son. His name was Tund, that is why people called her Mama Tund. He was 12 years old, sharp, and noticed more than adults expected. One evening, Tund sat at the table doing his homework. His father was getting ready to go out, ironing his shirt, spraying perfume, checking his phone. Tund looked up and said, "Daddy, why don't you ever tell people that Mummy sells Akara?" The room went quiet. Emeka did not answer immediately. He cleared his throat and said, "Mind your business and face your book." But Tund was not done. "My teacher said there is no shame in honest work," she said. "I said face your book," Emeka snapped. Tund looked at his mother. Mama Tund looked at her son with soft eyes and said gently, "Do your homework, my love." Emeka picked up his keys and walked out. Mama Tund sat down slowly. She looked at her hands, hands that smelled of oil and bean paste. Hands that had fed this family for years. And she made a quiet decision in her heart. A few weeks later, Big K announced that he was throwing a big party. He had just bought a new house and wanted to celebrate. It was going to be the talk of the town, music, food, all the big people in their circle. Emeka was very excited. This was the kind of event where he could shine. He bought a new agbada. He polished his shoes. He even borrowed money from his office colleague to buy a gift for Big K. He did not tell Mama Tund about the party. He just said, "I'm going out on Saturday. Don't wait for me." Mama Tund said, "Okay." But Mama Bello, who had her own way of hearing things, told Mama Tund about the party. Big K's new house. That whole street will be talking about it. Your husband's friends will all be there. Mama Tund listened. She nodded slowly. And she said, "Thank you, Ma." The party was everything Emeka had imagined. Big K's new house was lit up with colored lights. There was a DJ. There was a caterer. There were men in expensive clothes and women in fine dresses. Emeka walked in like he owned the place. Biodun slapped him on the back. Chuka handed him a drink. Sandra was there, in a red dress, and she laughed when she saw him. Emeka felt tall. He felt important. He felt like the man he pretended to be. He had been there for about an hour, dancing, eating, laughing, when the door opened. And Mama Tund walked in. She was not wearing a wrapper. She was not carrying a frying pot. She had on a simple but neat dress, the kind that says "I am not here to play." Her head was tied with a clean gelly. She carried herself like someone who had nothing to prove and everything to say. People turned. Who is this woman? Emeka saw her from across the room. His face changed. He moved fast, cutting through the crowd, reaching her, grabbing her arm and pulling her to the side. His voice was low and tight. "What are you doing here? I have told you, I do not want to be seen with you. You are embarrassing me." Mama Tund looked at him. Calm. Still. Like deep water. "I am not going anywhere. People must know that I am your wife. Stop hiding me from your friends." "Lower your voice," he hissed. "Please. I will explain everything later." "There is nothing to explain later." She stepped around him. She walked to the center of the room. The DJ felt something shift and lowered the music. Mama Tund stood in the middle of Big K's living room, and in a clear, calm voice, she said, "Good evening, everyone. My name is Ngozi. Ngozi Emeka. I am the wife of the man standing by the door, the one in the blue agbada." Every head turned to Emeka. He stood frozen. His face was the color of a man who wished the ground would swallow him. She continued. "I sell Akara by the road junction, the one by the mango tree. Maybe some of you have bought from me before. My husband is ashamed of this. He does not like people to know that his wife fries Akara. But I want you to know something." She paused. The room was completely silent. "The school fees that kept my son in class, Akara paid them. The light bill that kept this man's house bright, Akara paid it. The fuel he put in his car last month, Akara paid for it. I am not ashamed. I am not hiding. And I refuse to let my husband hide me like I am something dirty. She looked across the room at Emeka. I am his wife. And I am proud of who I am. You could hear a pin drop. Then Mama Bello, who had somehow also found her way to the party, because Mama Bello always found her way, started to clap. Then someone else clapped. Then another. Then the whole room was clapping. Big K walked forward and shook Mama Tun's hand. Madam, he said, you are welcome in my house. And that Akara by the junction? Best in town. There was laughter. Warm laughter. Emeka did not know where to look. Biodun was staring at him. Chuka had turned away. Sandra had quietly disappeared into another corner. Big K walked up to Emeka and said quietly, your wife just showed more strength in 2 minutes than most men show in a lifetime. Take care of her. Emeka said nothing. They drove home in silence. Mama Tund looked out the window. Emeka gripped the steering wheel. Halfway home, Emeka said quietly, you embarrassed me. Mama Tund turned to him slowly and said, no. You embarrassed yourself. For a long time, you have been embarrassing yourself. I just stopped letting you embarrass me too. Emeka had no words. When they got home, Tund was still awake. He had stayed up, worried. When he saw his mother walk in, he ran and hugged her. Mummy, are you okay? I am more than okay, she said. She kissed his forehead, went inside, and slept soundly. The days after were uncomfortable for Emeka. His friends had heard what happened. Word had spread. People were talking. But not the way Emeka feared. They were not mocking Mama Tund. They were talking about her with respect. That woman is strong. Oh. Did you hear what she said? Akara paid for everything. Her husband should be ashamed. And slowly, quietly, Emeka began to feel the weight of that shame, the real kind. Not the shame of being seen with his wife. But the shame of how he had treated her. He started small. One morning, he woke up early. He found Mama Tund loading her pot. He said, let me help you carry that. She looked at him. He looked at her. She handed him the pot. They walked together to the junction. He helped her set up. He said nothing grand. He made no big speech. But the neighbors saw. Mama Bello saw. She smiled from her window. Some people spend their whole lives running from the truth about themselves. They build a fake image, shiny on the outside, empty on the inside, and they guard it like treasure. But a fake image cannot feed a family. It cannot fix a roof. It cannot pay school fees. It was the woman with oil on her hands and a wrapper around her waist who kept that house standing. And the most powerful thing she did, more powerful than any amount of money, was to stand in a crowded room and refuse to disappear. Because dignity is not something you buy in a boutique. It is not something you wear to a party. Dignity is what you have when you look at your honest work, no matter how small the world thinks it is, and you say, I am not ashamed. Mama Tund was never the problem. She was always the foundation. And it just took one evening, one room full of people, and one steady voice, for everyone to finally see it. Including her husband. So what does this story want to leave in your heart? It wants you to know that honest work, no matter how small it looks, no matter how it smells, no matter where it happens, is never something to be ashamed of. A woman who fries Akara to keep her family alive is worth 10 men who dress well and do nothing. Do not let anyone make you feel small for working hard with your hands. It wants you to know that the people who truly love you are not there to embarrass you. They are there to support you. And when you push them away to protect your image, you are not protecting anything. You are destroying the very thing that was holding you up. It wants you to know that children are watching. Always. They see how you treat the people who love you. They see who you really are when you think no one important is looking. Be careful what you teach them with your actions, because your actions will become their belief about how love is supposed to look. And it wants every woman who has ever been hidden, overlooked, or made to feel like her contribution was not enough. It wants her to know that she is seen. Her early mornings are seen. Her tired hands are seen. Her quiet sacrifices are seen. And one day, in one room or another, the truth always comes out. Because dignity is not something you buy in a boutique. It is not something you wear to a party. Dignity is what you have when you look at your honest work. No matter how small the world thinks it is, and you say without flinching, I am not ashamed. Mama Tund was never the problem. She was always the foundation. It just took one evening, one room full of people, and one steady voice for everyone to finally see it. Including her husband. And maybe, just maybe, including you. Please don't leave without hitting the subscribe button for premium stories every day.